Hey, it's TDA and welcome to episode 6 of this Dyson Sphere Let's Play. Today we'll be building yellow science. And I don't know about you, but this is always the part that when I was doing my first few playthroughs, it was really bugging the hell out of me. Because you need several items which are, well, honestly, a little bit annoying to make. So let's take a look at that. We will need to craft several items actually that we haven't crafted before. Titanium crystals being the main problem, because titanium crystals need organic crystals, and those are made from the chemical facility. You can make them yourself actually, and you need plastics, which is also a chemical compound, on top of some oil and water. But oil and water are not really the problem, but you need the plastic as well, which needs even more oil and some graphite. Anyway, organic crystals themselves are really slow to make. You get 1 per 6 seconds, so that is quite slow. And of course you need the plastic as well. The plastic isn't too bad, it's 1 per 3 seconds, but all in all this will make sure that we're going to have to craft a whole bunch of those. Titanium crystals themselves are also not the fastest bunch, so you only get 1 per 4 seconds, so all in all this is going to take up quite some while. The good news is diamonds are not hard at all. So you make them straight from graphite. I still don't know how to say this. Graphite. Let's go with graphite. Anyway, diamonds are made straight from graphite, and that is straight made from coal. So that is really straightforward, but this part is the challenge. Now the good thing is that it's actually a really straightforward build to make, and I'll show you how to do it. Of course, we're trying to keep it lean and mean, and we're trying to keep it efficient, so we want to make perfect ratios, and this is actually one of the builds where you can easily do that. One small warning, I am going to aim for 3 science per second, not really because we need that at this point, and if you watched my earlier Let's Plays, you will find that I actually recommend keeping it a bit lower, but if we're going for 3 per second, that nicely matches up with what we've done before with our red science, so that means that we won't have to bother with this build for the foreseeable future. Now, I'm actually going to place this so I know where to aim for, and let's make sure this is nicely aligned to our previous build, like so. You can actually argue this is not nicely aligned to our previous build because we will be a little bit further out. But we'll have to do and make it work. Do we? Yeah, we do. Okay, anyway, science. So in order to make some yellow science, and I will show you, we will need quite a bit of science facilities. So yellow science is made from, as we know, diamonds and titanium crystals, but it's only 1 per 8 seconds. So if we want to have 3 per second, we're going to need 24 of these. So remember the math. Multiply it with the production speed to get 1 per second. So this time, in this case, it's 8 to get 1 per second, and then we want 3 per second, so it's times 3 again, so 24. 24 is not as hard as it sounds, because we can stack these up 4, 5, 6 times, probably even further to be honest. And there we go, 8 times, but I'm actually going to drop it down to 6. Apparently I got an achievement. Go me. Let's space them out so we don't get into any issues in terms of spacing in terms of the blueprints. And let's have 6 of those here. So this is 24, and if I count it right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I count right? No, I actually did. So let's make sure there's actually 6 per stack. There we go, 24. Okay. So this is quite straightforward, and this will be exporting on that belt. Now, actually what we could do is move it out a little bit. Okay, I couldn't help myself, so I moved everything up 1 belt. That's the only thing I did, but it better aligns this way. Anyway, so diamonds. So we want diamonds on this belt. Let me mark that up, and I'm still getting used to where everything is. There we go, diamonds. So diamonds on this belt. Now we also need the titanium crystals. They will be coming in on the other belt, and hopefully we can nicely align this like so. maybe we can't actually, so let me take that one out. But we want the titanium crystals on this belt. So just putting in the reminders for myself. Titanium crystal, where are you? There we go. Okay, now in order to make titanium crystals, we will need exactly 12. And I'll show you the math just for a second. So we need 3 per second in terms of the yellow cubes. That means that because those need, we also need 3 titanium crystals per second. So in order to get that, we will need 4 times 3 is 12 of the assemblers at Mark 2 speed. So 3 per second times the this is producing 1 per 4 seconds. So in order to get 1 per second, you need 4 of these, and then times 3 is 12. I'm not going to run you through every single piece of this math, but just as a quick reminder on how to do that math easily in your head. Works a little bit better with some of the more even numbers, but yeah, you can do it pretty much all on the fly if you want to. Now, in order to get the assemblers up and running, we will need 6 of them. So this is a nice group of 6, I think. And what we will actually do is they need 2 inputs. So we will be putting 2 belts in between, like so. And because we need 12 of these, we're actually going to group them like this. Now, this phase gives us one problem, because these will be on... The exiting belt will be on different sides, of course. But that's not a huge problem because we have some room, so we can easily flip this around. Oh, let's do this correctly, like so. What we can easily do is simply go like this. Have this belt go all the way around. Of course, that does mean I have to flip around this belt because this was moving in the other direction. And do it like that. Alright, that takes care of our titanium. Now, in order to get titanium, we will need several items. We need organic crystals and we need some titanium. We will be getting the titanium from the upper belt, but we will be getting the organic crystal from the belt below. Where is it? There it is. Okay, now, what we actually need is quite a few items because, yeah, there is a couple of things going on when it comes to organic crystals, and I'll show you as soon as I remember where it is. There it is. Okay, so let's flip that around because I like it better this way and facing in the direction where we're actually going in. Let's place it over there, and then let's take a look at organic crystals. So organic crystals, like I said, are producing really slow, and that means that because for this we need again 3 per second, and because it's the same ratio as the titanium crystals, 1 to 1, and we need a 3 per second of those. That means we will need 6 times 3 is 18 of these chemical facilities producing organic crystals. Well, 18 smelters or 18 assemblers is not that much. I mean, we have 12 assemblers over here, for example, but these things are huge. And well, as you can see, if I'm gonna spread them out, this is already 15, I think, something like that. Let me count. So these are 5. This is another 5. Like I said, this build is going to be a little bit bigger. This is another 5. And then we need 3 more. Probably need to take a little foundation here and there, like so. Okay, so this is 18 of these. Yeah, it's a nice row. I do like putting them in a row, by the way. And why is that? Because that makes placing them on other planets a lot easier. Because if you make larger builds like this, it's very easy to get conflicted with the tropical lines, but because we're building everything east to west or west to east, whatever you want, we will never get into issue with tropical lines. Of course, you could get into issues with veins or anything like that getting in the way, but that's a lot easier to solve. You can just hide them than dealing with tropical lines, which you can't actually move. Now, I am going to move this belt up a little bit because the exporting belt will actually be this one. Okay, so that takes care of our organic crystals, at least in the sense that we're getting the output, but we need to have 3 inputs. Now, remember, we also need plastic, and plastic also needs oil. So we want to make sure that we're getting the plastic and the oil on the same side as the organic crystals, or at least from the same side compared to where the organic crystals are. Why? Because that will make it a lot easier in terms of keeping this compact. So just to show you there for a moment, we will need 1 belt with oil and we will need 1 belt with plastic. Now, this is actually going to be the oil belt. And again, remember that I'm using oil as a raw resource in this case. If you would have to add in the oil refineries to this build, it would become just about twice as big, I believe. Which is another reason not to do that, and just use the mini drilling facilities like the ones I have over here that I showed in the previous episode. But of course, if you want to do it that different, that's fine. And remember, because all the plastic that we're going to be producing is actually going to be used, we can export it out on the reverse direction. Doesn't really matter what direction you use, but I like reversing the direction just to keep it a bit more visual and nice looking. That means that if we put a plastic facility over here, I'm just going to change the recipe, that will also be drawing in oil. We will need actually about 15 oil per second for this build. So despite the fact that we are going to have a whole bunch of chemical facilities, you only need about half a Mark III belt full of oil. Now remember that 15 oil per second is actually quite a lot, because we look at our planet, we're producing crude oil at 48 per second, so that's and that's being produced at the same ratio as the refined oil. So we actually are using 1/3 of our entire oil supply if we would completely get this satisfied, which is quite a lot, of course. But still, I don't think it's that big of an issue, mainly because of the reasons that I explained before, but also because this is supposed to be an endgame build. So this build might not be up and running at full speed right from the get-go. It doesn't need to be either, because if we're producing a little less than 3 per second, that's fine. But as soon as we completely power this up and we're further in the game, we might have additional system with oil unlocked. That means we're producing 3 per second, and that is all we need until quite far into the game, honestly. So that just means we don't have to worry about building a yellow research facility anytime soon again. Now, of course, this needs not just oil, but it also needs graphite, and that means that I'm going to mark that on the belt over here. And the nice thing is, graphite is not just used in the plastics production, but it's also used in the diamond production. Now, just to finish this up, I'm actually going to finish that up off screen, but we're going to need the exact same ratio of organic crystals as we will need for the chemical facilities. And then you might be wondering, hey, but TDA, we need 2 plastic per organic crystal, so don't we need twice as many? The answer is no, because this is actually producing at twice the speed. So it's exactly a 1-to-1 ratio, so that's nice and symmetric, and that is how we like it, of course. All right, so that leaves the diamonds, and we are going to need 6 diamond smelters. And it doesn't really matter how you put them, but if you align them a little bit like this, then this is going to be 6 diamond smelters. There we go. This is not the most interesting or complex part of the build, but still it needs to be done. And remember, those need graphite as well. So we're also going to need a total of, and let me do my math right, 18. Seems to be the magical number for this build. We're also going to need 18 smelters producing graphite. And remember, if you drag out your smelters to the max range, this will always be exactly 15, so you don't have to count them. And if you're as bad at counting as I am, that is a good thing. Of course, it does help if you set the correct recipe, so let me do that again. But it's an easy way to count out numbers that are close to 15 or maybe 30 or whatever. 30 in terms of smelter is actually a pretty common number because you typically either have 15 or 30 smelters on a full belt of incoming material if you want to optimize production that way. So that math is really nice and easy. Okay, so we have the graphite on this belt. And then of course we need some incoming coal as well. So not sure why I just removed that entire belt. But basically this will be the incoming coal on the outside. And I like to have the raw resources kind of a little bit on the outside of the build if I can. Because it makes it really easy to make sure you get that in. Maybe especially in the earlier builds, if you want to get it in from the sides, you can. Things like that, it's all fine. As you can see, I'm still using coal for my production, my power production, because I haven't bothered about making anything other than that. But with these builds, you don't really need anything more special than that either. But don't forget, you need some quick power. Use those 3 wireless power towers to charge yourself up. It's all you ever need to build in this game, which is also why it's not in my mall. Because if you ever need more than 3, that probably means that you forgot them on a different planet. Been there, done that. Okay. Last but not least, we're almost done actually. This is not the most complex build, as I already said. We will need some water actually for this build. Because remember, oil, plastic, we have that on this side. We have the exporting belt on this side as well. So we need the water on this belt. There we go. Again, a raw resource. And then of course we also need the titanium. And now my power tower is actually in the way. There we go. Okay. So that is coming in. And if you want to be a purist about this, you could actually move everything 1 up. You know I'm a purist, so I'm actually going to do that off screen. Because that will neatly tuck everything together and make sure we are using the smallest space that we can. But before we do that, I'm just going to finish this build and then move everything up 1 row. And that is, we will need actually, let's do it like this. We will need titanium smelters, and we will need 18 of those, but we also had 18 of the graphite smelters. And I'm weird, but I like keeping this build as symmetric as we can. So that means that we can put it like this, and basically make sure that they're exactly aligned with the graphite smelters on this side. So this will be titanium. And that also means that in terms of raw materials, once again, we can have that on the outside. So we will have the raw titanium ore coming in here. There we go. And then of course there's a whole bunch of belts and plastic facilities to finish. But I think you get the gist by now, so I will do that off screen. I will hook everything up. I will take a little flight to the other planet to get some titanium. I have that building up there, but just a very small build with a few miners. And then we'll meet right back here. And we're back, and we're done. But the real question is, did you catch the mistake I made while I was making the build? You'll get a moment to pause, think about what I did wrong, and then I'll just show you. Because I made a tiny whoopsie, and that has everything to do with the thing you just saw in the background, the graphite. It was belting into the diamond over here, which is a good thing because we also need it there. But of course, we also needed to reach all the plastic in the background. And just look how neat this looks. Isn't this just so organized and pretty? I know, I like it. I hope you like it too. But it also meant I had to either flip the diamond and graphite around or be a little bit more efficient with my belts and simply move it all the way to the back in such a way that it's supplying from the back and thereby reaching all the plastic facilities. Now, in order to keep it symmetric, I also moved the titanium to the back, which I did over here. So as you can see, it's now nice and symmetric still. It kind of has a kind of a rocket ship look. If you have some imagination, I don't know. But anyway, it looks really organized, and this makes sure everything reaches where it needs to go. That also means that you need to be a little bit careful about how you place your sorters, because of course this first one also needs to be supplied. So that means that the first ingoing belt on the graphite belt needs to be before the first taking in belt over here that goes into the plastic. Similarly, at the end, you need to make sure that the last graphite is actually also supplying something, because otherwise, of course, your build and your ratios don't work like they should. And similarly, you need to make sure that you do the same thing with, for example, your plastic. Now the plastic belt, remember, we have it moving this direction, so the other way around. So that means that the last plastic supplying needs to be before the first organic crystal facility taking it in, so that the 1-to-1 ratio works everywhere. It's small things, but when you're making builds like this, make sure you pay attention where you put your sorters, otherwise you might have 1 or 2 facilities not actually doing anything. Other than that, of course, we need to supply it with some base materials. So I have a belt with coal coming in from quite a far away place, I think, all the way over there. Water, we had that close by, so that's easy. I have a few extra water suppliers here, I think. I just like to make sure we have enough. And we need quite a bit of oil. This is actually not even enough oil compared to what we need to have it producing at full capacity. But this is basically 3 oil wells being supplied. And I really like my little build. Well, ×3 over here. Looks like a mini facility. It's a larger version of a miner, you could say. As you can see, the oil production has been working quite a bit. So we have small amounts stacking up here already. It's that much. We're not actually using it at the moment. We're burning off the hydrogen in the power facilities, which you can, of course, at some point easily replace with a interstellar logistics center station. Apologies. You can put it in the middle here, have the hydrogen going in here, and as well, of course, as the oil going in there, and you can easily transport it across the universe if that's what you want to do. Now, one last thing, of course, is a little nuance on this build, because it's a little bit subtle, but I think it's worth pointing out. We have, again, 4 items going into this build as raw items. That means that if we have a supplying ILS standing here in a few sessions from now, we can import these 4 items. We have 1 additional import available for warpers. And that means that this is one of those builds that will always be functioning as long as you have warpers and as long as you're getting your base materials from anywhere in the system. So you never have to worry about bottlenecks. As long as you have the base materials, this will be working. Yeah, and actually I've gotten a few times the question, won't we run out of space if we make these larger builds? Well, the answer is actually no. And actually it's going to be a lot harder to run out of space than when you do a more conservative, or maybe a more, how do you say that, more classic type of build where you just go 1 by 1, make all the little production facilities. They tend to be all over the place. As you can see, we are extremely organized in this build. We have a few production facilities over here. We have our yellow science, we have our red science, our blue science. Notice the borders, by the way, which makes it really easy to note what is being built where. We have our buildings being produced over here. So this is actually the mall. We have the assemblers, we have the belts, and this is the sorters. And I think we only have 1 build over here, which is the foundations, and that's it. So despite, of course, my my windmills taking up half the planet at the moment, which we can replace with solar energy if we want, we have so much space still left. Like, we're only using, what is it, 20% of the planet, if that. So as you can tell, space is not going to be an issue, not to mention we have 2 more planets in this system. We're not quite done yet, of course. We have quite a few more things to build, but not as many as you might think, because we are not approaching this on a 1 by 1 basis in terms of the materials. No, that's not what we're doing. We're using end products only, and there's only so much end products in this game. Specifically, it's basically the 5 or 6, depending on how you count, types of research, and then a few more buildings. But that's pretty much it. And after that, we can just focus on scaling up, scaling up, scaling up, which is a whole different process in itself, but it's really fun. One thing, don't forget this, make sure you supply this. I had a little trip to the other planet to get some titanium, And hopefully we should now see this entire build working. Let's not have the build mode enabled when we look at it, because that's just ugly. As you can see, we have everything else already going in. So this should be working like intended. Actually, this is not working like intended. Why is it not working? Because we don't have the oil coming in, because I... okay, because I got it from the wrong belt. So, like you can see, even I can make silly mistakes like that. And of course that's easy to fix, because I've just simply forgot one sorter, and we can copy it throughout the build like this. And that should then easily take care of itself. Which also means I need to go back and update the blueprint, because this was not in there. Anyway. Oh, the lives of a blueprint creator. And there we go. We got the milestone for getting the first yellow research. That will now be going into our production facility. As you can see, it will take a little while for this to actually get up to full speed. But thanks to the update from a few weeks ago, this will take less time than before, because this is only stacking up to a handful of each item that we are producing. As you can see, we're up to, what is it, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there we go. So this will be speeding up quite fast, and the research should be ticking away any moment now, as soon as I actually remember to connect these to the belts. So apologies there. I got so excited about finishing the build, I actually forgot to hook up the science facilities to our science. So there we go. And now we should be blowing through our research quite fast. So as you can see, it's already speeding up, and it will be no time before we finish most, if not all, of our yellow research. Now remember, the first things you want to do when we're focusing on this is actually not researching what I'm researching now, although it is quite convenient to have your mecha core up and running. But you probably should be researching the high strength titanium alloy first, because that will allow you to build the interstellar logistics center. If you haven't done so already by now, I also highly recommend that you get all the materials needed for the spaceships. So that is the thrusters, of course, that you need, both types, because you need them for the shuttles, as well as the, what are they called, logistics vessels. And I think if we look at our production now, we should be able to make that, I believe. Shuttles, yes. Oh, and of course the vessels we can't make yet, because they are part of the ILS research. But of course, no surprise there. That will be the next step of our series, because we want to automate our interstellar logistics, so we don't have to fly up and down the planets all the time. Now look at this. One more. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Fire up. So close, so close. Anyway, I won't make you wait for that, but as you can see, this is working very nicely. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will catch you in the next one.